Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:07. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in on this very busy Monday morning. We got much to get to here in our final hour, including revisiting the revelations about President Biden's health and what the White House knew and when they knew it. Plus, Hillary Clinton is back. She's got something to say about women who vote for Republicans. So, Julie Gunlock, I'm sure you have an opinion or two about that.
Just a few.
That's Julie Gunlock. I am Larry O'Connor, and joining us right now is Congressman Andy Harris. Not only does he represent Maryland single-handedly in all of Washington, D.C., but he's also the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. All eyes are on you and your caucus as we go through the reconciliation process right now. Chairman Harris, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be with you, Larry.
Listen, they're calling it the big, beautiful bill because I think that's Trump's language that he used to describe the idea of whether they get one big reconciliation package versus two separate, smaller reconciliation packages. Here's what's confusing to me. This is a tax cut. Why not call it what it is? You know, we're getting lost in the weeds with reconciliation and budget and spending and fraud and abuse and cuts, or are they cuts or are they not cuts? The bottom line is the bulk of this is a tax cut, and Republicans love tax cuts. So what's the beef with the tax cut?
Well, Larry, the problem is that after that Moody's debt downgrade last week, it becomes really important to make certain that if we keep taxes where they are, that is, we cut them from where they would be without this bill, we have to make certain that the deficit doesn't go up, because that debt spiral, if it's allowed to begin, it will not end well for this country. So this is our one chance, because we know that outside of a reconciliation bill, Democrats will never vote to cut spending. They love to spend. They've spent us into this disaster, and it's left up to us to get us out of it.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers the other day, Chairman Harris, and it looked to me like, we're still under continuing resolutions for, multiple years now, right? So all of that influx of spending that was under the guise of emergency money needed because of the lockdown and the pandemic, we're still under those numbers, right? I mean, pre-pandemic, we're something like 50% or 60% of the spending we're under right now. So why are we still operating with these numbers that were based specifically on helping out Americans and helping out various institutions that needed emergency relief during the pandemic? The pandemic's been over for years.
Well, that's right. We had about a 40% increase in spending, but once you factor out the increase because of Medicare and Social Security due to the aging population, it's probably about a 20% increase from pre-pandemic, which means that's the amount we should be cutting. And programs like the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which is really the Green New Scam, I mean, that has to be eliminated. That's like $1 trillion. The bump ups in for instance, the food stamp program got bumped up during COVID. Well, yes. COVID is over. Let's restore it to pre-COVID levels. Medicaid, 40 to 50% increase in spending over the past 5 years. Let's restore that to pre-pandemic levels. Because without it, Larry, this will not end well. The Moody's downgrade is incredibly important. And Washington, the leadership, is whistling past the graveyard on this.
Yeah, I agree. There's some concerns also about the Green New Deal and that scam being continued. Why the delay? Why not end some of these things? I mean, you mentioned Medicaid. There's a delay. That's sort of the word, very popular in Washington, phased out. Why not just cut it? Is it a fear of not having the votes, of reelection? What's the holdup here, especially with things like Green New Deal? Why in the world would there be a delay in killing those programs?
Well, look, when you talk about $1 trillion in subsidies, you have very powerful advocates in Washington. And with regards to Medicaid, it's a political fear. But look, we came to Washington, at least the conservatives, the House Freedom Caucus, our members came to Washington to make certain that we save the country. And the bottom line is that if we have this fiscal disaster that is upcoming, it's coming. There's no question about it. Moody's called this exactly right, because there is no fiscal restraint being shown in for instance, the bill that's in front of us. We are going that bill, by the way, increases deficits in the first 5 years and then lowers them in the last 5 years. Well, I've been around Washington long enough to know you never get to those last 5 years. All you're going to see is the increased deficits of the first 5 years.
Yeah. We're speaking with Congressman Andy Harris of Maryland, and your role as a congressman from Maryland factors into one of the biggest contentious points of this reconciliation bill, and that's the SALT package. That has to do with the deductibility of state income tax, which was eliminated in the 2017 package. States that have high state income taxes like California, Illinois, New York, and Maryland are all trying to push to return some of that deductibility back. But speaking from the perspective of someone in a state that doesn't have high income taxes, why should a state like Maryland, that has Democrat dominance in its government and continues to raise state taxes, why should they get a federal break, basically a subsidy from the federal government, just because they have an irresponsible state government?
Look, I agree, and that's why I think you want to limit the SALT deduction cap to middle-income homeowners. Basically, it's homeowners that bear the real brunt of it because, for obvious reasons, they won't be able to deduct their state and local tax and their mortgage. So what you have to do, I think, is just limit it to the middle class, and I think that would be all right. That's one of the things on the table. But I can also see your argument where we just shouldn't do it at all.
What is that number in your mind? Because middle class is reinterpreted everywhere. What to you? What's that upper limit?
So I would use President Biden's tax limit, $400,000 on a joint return, and we would save a lot of money if we limited it, to that bracket.
And but the other option then is to let those middle income people in those high tax states run by Democrats get angry at not at the federal government for not giving them a deduction, but get angry at their own government in their state, and maybe they might vote them out. That could be a good thing.
I agree, and that's the messaging that I haven't really heard very strongly. Is that the whole reason that the SALT deduction cap exists is because of local overspending.
What's the mood of the Freedom Caucus right now, and what are your rules of engagement on this, Chairman Harris? Does everyone, obviously, ultimately, everybody has the right to vote their own conscience, but are you trying to vote as a block on this, and are you dealing directly with the Speaker's office?
I don't think we're going to be able to vote as a block because we definitely have members who at this point say there's no way they're going to support this. We have to show more fiscal restraint. But I don't think we need to vote as a block. I think that on this one, you're right. Everyone gets to vote the way they think it's best for them and for their constituents. But I will tell you, there is no way that we are close to having the votes to pass this without further fiscal restraint in it.
No way that you're close without more spending cuts. And let me ask you one last question. It's a very much a Beltway question, but we're in the Beltway, so what the heck? There seems to be two schools of thought here, that the bigger concern of your colleagues is that some of these moderate or blue district Republicans could lose in the midterms if they go ahead and vote with the president. But there's also concern that some of your colleagues in the Freedom Caucus will be primaried by another Republican and lose their seat if they don't vote with the president. What do you think? Where is this going to fall? Are they going to accommodate the moderates in the blue districts for the concern that they may lose their seats to the Democrats? Or are they going to fault to the Republicans, the conservatives, because they don't want to be primaried by President Trump?
Well, I was elected during the Tea Party election, and no Republican's going to lose who stands for fiscal restraint. I think the president will come around to the opinion that we do have to show fiscal restraint, and I think that we will win on that messaging, even if the president takes actions, against us. The bottom line is Republicans believe that we have to eventually balance our budget, and we have to work toward that.
All right, Congressman Harris, we appreciate you coming on. And as things heat up over the next several days or maybe weeks, we'd love to have you back. If you hear anything, if anything's changing, let us know. We'll have you on.
Absolutely. Thanks.